That's right. Alexa, stop. Welcome back, Virtual Math. Still live from the man cave. We are going through day 8 of the Pitt County Schools math packet. Hopefully days 1 through 7 have been a walk in the park for you. If they haven't, hopefully I've been able to answer some questions for you as we have gone through each day. Most important thing I can say right now is if you have not joined that Google Classroom, please be sure to hop in there. I think we've only got about 20 in there right now. And again, starting on Monday, that's where everything's going to be. Everything that you need to be successful is going to be in that Google Classroom. So join. I think I sent another email this morning. So make sure you're hopping in there for me. Otherwise, I'm going to have to come chase you down and find you to make sure you're getting in there. All right. So if you watched the day 7 video, a lot of what I said from day 7 is actually going to come in very, very handy for day number 8 because there's just a lot of similarities. I'm going to go ahead and start going over these, but as soon as my guest joins us, I'm just going to stop. Well, I'll finish that question, but I'll stop and I will bring them in, but we're going to go ahead and start getting going with number 1. It says, which inequality is true? And I actually just realized that I don't have the thing pulled up, and I want that pulled up. So let me go Pitt County Schools. Come on, computer. Oh, and I think my guest just joined, actually. So let me get this pulled up, and I will invite them in. So far I've had Lily, who did an awesome job, had Aiden, who did an awesome job. So this guest has pretty big shoes to fill, but it's a pretty good one. So I'm going to go ahead and get this person going here. Let's see. Uh-oh. She's struggling. Can you hear me?
I hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but I can't see you.
Oh,
there you are. Can you see me?
Hey.
Can you see
you? It's just a picture.
Oh, this happened last time. Hold on, I gotta do this. You got me?
Oh wait, there you are. Hey.
What's up?
What are you doing?
Just virtual math.
Why do you look so fancy?
Because it's my talk
Please
show.
tell me you are not getting dressed up in a shirt and tie every day. Virtual math.
I said if I was going to do this, I was going to do it like to the extreme.
Okay, I need to like really step up my game.
No, you're great. So far, I've had Lily was a guest on Monday. Aiden was a guest in my earlier video. And I hyped you up, so you got to like really bring it.
Okay, I'm going to do my best.
What's up, dude? Hey, Alexa, fart.
Okay, here's Big Fart.
Oh, boy.
Hey, Alexa, fart.
Say a long and windy fart. Or say random.
She said try asking me for a long and windy fart.
So what do you want to hear?
She gave us a quick and squelchy one.
Yes.
Okay, no more. That's enough. Stop.
Right, we're going off the rails here. All right, Miss G.
All right.
3 questions for you.
All right.
What is your favorite thing about being home so far?
Alexa's still farting.
Okay.
Okay, I'm sorry. My favorite thing about being home so far is that I get to wear like workout clothes all day.
Okay, I guess that's a good thing.
I mean, that's really all I got.
Okay, well, I guess that's cool. What's your least
Yeah.
favorite thing about being home?
Stop, or I'm gonna ask you to leave. Probably not having like the structure and the routine, not getting to see you every morning in the
Oh,
hallway.
that's
probably
nice. Well, that kind of goes with my
Yeah,
next
that's
question.
the
I
worst.
was going to ask if you're doing anything to stay organized, but it doesn't really sound like you're doing a great
No,
job.
I am. I'm doing a good job. So like I am like writing stuff down. Like I'm like a hard copy kind of person.
Yeah.
Like all this digital stuff. So I have my notepad and like I'm writing stuff down every day.
Wow.
I like write down what I'm doing. Yeah, it's intense over here.
Okay, well, that's really good.
Wait, you
Yeah,
have
so I'm making a lot. I'm making a lot of like to-do lists and making sure that I like check off all my
That's
things
awesome.
to do.
Good.
Alexa.
All right, so you told me to surprise you with a question, so I can choose
Yeah.
any one of these
Yeah.
questions. All right,
Yeah.
let me do this real quick. You can see this, correct?
Yeah.
All right. I'm gonna choose. Let's do.
How you control?
I want you to do number 10
All right, gotta be able to work this out.
because I think me and you would maybe think this one's easy, but number 10 is honestly one of the most missed questions. Like every time I've done it in class. So it says the classmates had a race, and the finish times are listed below. So you had Lionel, who finished in 45 and 34 hundredths of a second. Jenny finished in 38 and 33 hundredths of a second. Dominic finished in 39 and 4 hundredths of a second. And Isabella finished in 38 and 12 hundredths of a second.
Okay. Who won the race?
Yeah, who won that
Okay.
race?
Okay. All right, I know how to do this. Okay. So the higher the number, the longer it took for them to run the race.
Right.
So that means that Lionel came in last.
Hey,
Right.
21 and 100.
Stop. All right, so is that right?
21 and
Lionel came in last, right?
You're right.
Okay. All right. So then after Lionel, or before Lionel finished, Dominic finished. And then before Dominic finished, Jenny finished. So that means that Isabella finished the race first. She won, Isabella, D.
You're exactly right. Now, what do you think they choose every single time?
Lionel.
They choose Lionel every time, and I could go over that question 1,000 times, and they always just pick the one that's the greatest.
Oh, well, no, but that's not what it says.
I know. So, like, I use the example, like,
The one that is like took the longest.
like if you're winning a race, would you want to be the first one to finish or the last? They're always like, oh, I want to be the first. So, would you rather take 30 seconds or 40 seconds? 30 seconds. But they still always
Right.
pick the one that's.
Finished it first.
So, as easy as that question may seem, they struggle.
40 and 100.
All right, Miss G, I appreciate your help. I
That's
really wish you could see like my other angle. You're gonna make fun of me, but I'll send this to you when I'm done, so you can kind of see what this looks like.
Okay.
And I mean, I'd love to be invited to yours.
Sounds good.
Whatever.
Oh my gosh, I don't want you to think that I'm like trying to copy you, but I really want you to come on and do something with me too.
I want to be in your Zoom.
Okay, cool. Well, let's work it out for tomorrow.
All right, cool. I'm kicking you out. Thank you for coming on.
Okay. All right, bye.
Bye.
All right, moving back on. Let me see if I can get myself back up here. I'm starting to get the hang of this thing a little bit. Stop video. All right, so that was number 10. And again, like I told her, that is one you should get right every single time. But for some reason we struggle with that one. All right, so I'm going back up to the top. I'm looking at number 1. It says, which inequality is true? Let me scroll up here so you can see your answer choices. So the thing that you would want to do is you'd always want to look at the whole numbers first. So you'd look to the left side of the decimal. Now, A would be an easy one to eliminate right off the bat, just because if you see an equal sign, that means they're going to be the exact same. The 3 is the same, but you got 7500s over on the left. You got 70 hundredths on the right side. So A would be eliminated. If you're looking over at B, it's saying that 2 and 82 hundredths is greater than 2 and 88 hundredths. So you've got 2's on the left side of both of those decimals. That means you only have to look at the right, because 82 is not greater than 88. So B would have to go. Then if you look at C, it's saying that 4 and 67 hundredths is less than 4 and 76 hundredths. That is true, because if you're looking at the whole numbers, they're both 4. So we only have to focus on the right side of the decimal, which means you got 67 over here. That is less than 76. So that would give us an answer choice of C. And then last, we still check D, but we would not compare these until we made them look the same. Even though you're going to look at your whole numbers and clearly know that this is not correct, because 1 is not less than 0, you would still take that 1 and 6/10 and pop a 0 right there just to make sure they look the same on the right side of the decimal. But again, that can't be true, because 1 can't be less than 0. So for number 1, you should have had C. And again, the stuff we talked about in day 7 would have helped you with that one. A lot of people like to stack those also. The only thing it might have helped you on was D, because you would have made them look the same. The rest would have lined up perfectly. All right, looking at number 2, it says which expression, oops, let me get this going here. Which expression is another way to show 5/8? So again, you got to use all your answer choices. Solve them out. Now, A says 5 plus 1/8, which you could do. That's going to give you 5 and 1/8. I'm just trying to get 5/8. So A would be eliminated. If you're looking at B, that says 5 times 8/8. Aiden showed us yesterday, when you're multiplying these whole numbers times these fractions, you're really only going whole number times numerator, and that would give you 48ths. Now, honestly, right here, you can run through that mental checklist. It doesn't look like my answer, but what I could do with that is I could change it to a mixed number. But on this one, I wouldn't do it, because if I change it to a mixed number, it's going to be greater than 1. I'm only looking for 5/8. That's not greater than 1, so I know I could eliminate that. But if I looked at C, C says 5 times 1/8. That's going to give me exactly what I'm looking for. If I'm going whole number times numerator, 5 times 1 gives me 5. Denominator doesn't change, which gives me C. But still, I would check D anyways, just because that's EOG effort. 5 times 2/4. Is that right? Yeah, that's going to give me 10/4, which again, that doesn't give me what I'm looking for. I could change that to a mixed number, but if I do that, it's going to be greater than 1. 5/8 is less than 1. I wouldn't need to waste my time on that one. So for number 2, you should have been C, or you should have gotten C. And again, very similar to what we talked about, or a question that we saw yesterday. All right, we're moving along pretty quickly here. Looking at number 3, it says, what is the decimal form of 3 and 2/10? Look, realistically, if you can say that one out loud, you can get that one right. 3 and 2/10 as a decimal, I would just read all of these answer choices out loud. So A says 3 and 2/10. There's your answer right there. If you said B out loud, that would be 0 and 32 hundredths. You can eliminate that. C is the exact, actually C is 32 as a whole number. There is no decimal there, so that's way more than what you needed. And then if you're looking at D, that at least has 3 as a whole number, but that's not 3 and 2/10. That's 3 and 2 hundredths. We've talked about that, I think, 2 days in a row. If you've got 2 numbers after a decimal, you're going to be in hundredths. So make sure if you say those out loud and they sound the same, you're good. All right, we are moving on to number 4. Charlie's downstairs losing his mind. Holy cow. All right. It says Lauren bikes 3/4 miles each day. How many miles will she bike in 5 days? Guys, here's my 5 days. 3/4 here, 3/4 here, 3/4, 3/4, 3/4. Yes, you could add them together and get the same exact answer, but instead of repeated addition, let's go with multiplication. 3/4 times 5. And normally I would have these flipped, but you're only doing whole number times your numerator. Boom, boom. That's going to give you 15. Denominator doesn't change. Good. The answer you got is 15/4, right? And you feel pretty good about the math that you did there. On the past couple of days, it's given you that as an answer choice, but I'm glad it didn't today because this forces you to go through your mental checklist. If you don't see your answer, don't panic. You've got an improper fraction. So change it to a mixed number. That fraction bar means divided by. So how many whole times can 4 go into 15? Think about your multiples. 4 times what gets you close? It goes in 3 whole times, because 4 times 3 is 12. I got to 12, but I need to get to 15. What's my remainder? That's going to become my numerator, which is 3, and my denominator doesn't change. That's going to leave me with B, 3 and 3/4 miles. Again, you could have added all those and still gotten 15/4, but once you get there, you got to go through that checklist to know you've got to change that to a mixed number. All right, looking at number 5. I like this number line better than yesterday's because it actually gives you the 0 to 1. And it's worded a little bit better with what you're actually looking for. It says, which one of those letters is located at, and I'm going to say it like this, 0.5. You got to know how to say that. But which one of those is located at 5/10? One number after the decimal. So first thing you got to do is always, with a number line, count your jumps. We're going from 0 to 1, so just follow along on my mouse here. So we're starting at 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Again, we're looking for 5/10. My number line's in tenths. If I counted 5 jumps, I would have landed on B, which of course is answer choice B. That one, all you're doing is counting jumps. As long as you said that decimal correctly, you were good. Now, let's say you were looking for this, and maybe you didn't see that as an answer choice. There's 3 other ways you could write that. So I'm going to give you a second to pause it. I want you to write those other 3 ways down and see if they match what I'm about to put up here. All right, so you could have written that as another decimal by going 0 and 50 hundredths, popping a 0 on there. Then you could have added those or written those as fractions. 5/10, 50 hundredths. It's just a matter of putting some zeros on there or taking zeros. So that one would have been B for number 5. All right, we're moving along to number 6. It says, what 2 fractions are equivalent to 9/10? Again, I mean, this is going exactly with what we're saying. Really, I could have given you no answer choices, and you could have just told me 2 fractions that are equivalent to that. So if I'm looking at 9/10, which I will do, maybe. There's 9/10. I could write it like that. But I could also pop some zeros on there and write it as 90 hundredths. And then write that as a fraction. So this right here is all I'm looking for in my answer choices. Now, you got to look at them carefully because they look very similar. But if you look at B, that gives you 9/10, that gives you 90 hundredths, which would have been your answer. So not a difficult question. If you look at the answer choices really quickly, there's a good chance you can miss it. That's why it's pretty important to take your time, look at that twice. Because those are the ones on the EOG, I tell you, don't miss that one. Miss the hard ones, don't miss that one. All right, we're going to number 7. All right, it says, Miss Venters uses 1/3 of a cup of oil to bake a cake. If she bakes 6 cakes, how many cups of oil does Mrs. Venters would use. That was worded wildly. And she got married halfway through the question. But if you got number 4 correct, you better have gotten number 7 correct. Because here's my 6 case. 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. Again, if you really wanted to do addition, you could. I prefer multiplication. So I would have just gone 6 times 1/3, which would have given me 6/3, which, looking at my answer choices, good is not an answer choice. Mental checklist tells me I need to change that to a mixed number. Fraction bar means divided by. Now, this is one of those easier ones to me. You guys have known this since 3rd grade. What's 6 divided by 3? 3 goes into 6 2 whole times, and that's it, guys. That gives you the answer choice to C, 2 cups. Now, some people might, if they didn't get answer choices, say 2 and 0/3. I mean, technically, yeah, you're right, and that's the same exact value, but you're never going to see that as an answer choice. So it's the same thing as just scratching that out and having those 2 cups on there. So for number 7, just like number 4, should have had C there. But like I've said on this one, I feel pretty good about those. All right, moving on to number 8. Stephanie ran more than 58 hundredths of a kilometer and less than 0 and 92 hundredths of a kilometer. Which could be the distance Stephanie ran? So I think we had a question similar to this with fractions on a number line maybe, and it could have been like day 1 or 2. This was just a little bit different. I just know that I have to have a decimal larger than 58 hundredths and less than 92 hundredths. Now, I could have gotten rid of D immediately, really without doing any math, because nothing should be greater than 92. It's saying that my number has to be less than that. If you look at D, that has 1 whole kilometer. Stephanie did not run 1 whole kilometer. So D, I would have scratched out pretty early. So then I would have just started with A and gone for the rest of them. A says 9 hundredths of a kilometer. Guys, 9 hundredths is not more than 58 hundredths. If you stack those on top of each other, 58 hundredths is clearly more than that. Same thing with B. 52 hundredths is not more than 58 hundredths of a kilometer. You could stack those and see they're not different. Here's where people might eliminate C really quickly, and then they end up eliminating all their answers, and they don't know where they went wrong. But look, we've got to be more than this, less than this, and we're using this. This was like day 1 decimal stuff. We would not compare those without making them look the same. One of them is in tenths, 2 of them are in hundredths. I can't change my hundredths to tenths because I can't take a 0. My decimal that's in tenths, though, very easily I can change the hundredths, popping a 0 right there. 80 hundredths is more than 58 hundredths. It is less than 92 hundredths, which is going to give you that answer of C, 0 and 8 tenths. So even though it looks different as the answer choice or in the answer choices, I can make that look very similar. It represents the exact same value. That one would be C. Put a little star on that one. I want to hear how we did on number 8. All right, number 9. I mean, honestly, it kind of looks like the question from yesterday where we couldn't see what was shaded. Maybe it's a little bit more clear online, a little bit. But if you look at the answer choices, you can kind of infer. It says which decimal is equal to the shaded grid. Just from looking at that picture, I personally see 3/10 shaded. So if I wrote that down as a fraction, that's what you would see. But if you're looking at your answer choices, they're all in decimals. So I would need to take that and write it as a decimal, which would look like this. Now, that is still not an answer choice. Now, it looks a lot like B. It looks pretty similar to C and D, but there's a way to make sure you're getting it right. Guys, there's 2 ways to write it. You can write it 2 more. You could write it again as a fraction in hundredths, and then you could write that fraction in hundredths as a decimal in hundredths just by adding a 0, which is going to give you D 30 hundredths. So even though that picture is in tenths, it's the exact same amount. It's equivalent with that decimal 30 hundredths. All right. Miss G knocked out number 10, crushed it. Number 11. Now, number 11, if you get this one right, that means you should get a question in FAM 5 right next week every single day. It says, which is a factor of the number 24? Couple different ways you can do this. But, guys, we have been absolutely crushing multiplication all year long. So, realistically, you should be able to give me every factor pair. You should be able to list the factors. Or you could just take your answer choices and see, hey, 5 times what gives you 24? Now, if you look at 24, it doesn't end in 5. It doesn't end in 0. 5 can't be a factor. So if you're looking at B, you could list the multiples of 9. 9 times 1, 8, there's 9. 9 times 2 is 18. 9 times 3 is 27. That goes beyond where I need to go. All right, looking at C, 12 times 1 is 12. 12 times 2 is 24. 12 would be a factor. 13 times 1 is 13. 13 times 2 is 26. That would go beyond. So your answer there would be C. But what I want you to do is, again, pause your video. See if you can make me a factor rainbow for 24, listing all the factors of 24. So I'm going to give you a second to pause the video before I list that rainbow. And don't just sit here and watch me drink this water. Pause your video and do that factor rainbow. Some of you might have already had it on your paper. So you would have started with 1 and 24. You would have had 2 and 12. You would have had 3 and 8. You would have had 4 and 6 as your factor rainbow. I'm pretty sure I got them all. And there we've proven our answer with 12C. All right, guys, last but not least, we've got number 12. It says the perimeter of the rectangle is 40 feet. The length is 15 feet. What is the width of the rectangle? Guaranteed this was the most missed question. Guaranteed. First of all, if it doesn't give you a shape, draw a shape. All right, there's my rectangle. And it gives me the perimeter. The distance all the way around is 40. So I'm just using the information that it gives me. All right, the length is 15 feet. So I can put 15 here. That means I can also put 15 down at the bottom. I'm trying to figure out the width. Guys, I'm just trying to figure out how wide one of those sides is. So use what it gives you. I can take what I already have, 15 and 15. Let's add those together. And if I did 15 plus 15, I'd have 30. So I've got 30 feet of the total 40 feet. I've got to figure out what's left. So let me subtract my total perimeter. Let me subtract what I've already got. And 40 minus 30 is going to give me 10. I'd be willing to put a bunch of money that a lot of people chose 10 as the answer. I would win money on that. But guys, this is where I can tell if you checked your work. If you put 10 as your answer, you didn't check your work. Because if you're adding all the way around, if you're doing 15 plus 15 plus 10 plus 10, that's not going to give you 40. But guys, when you've got 10 feet left, you've still got 2 sides that you have to cover. You got to take that 10, you've got to split it between those 2 sides, which is going to leave you with 5 on each. So look, if you're getting 10, you did 90% of that question right, which is great. But that little 10% would be, hey, let me check my answer. Really, you could avoid all of that and just plug in answers. That takes a little bit longer. But guys, if you check your work, this is one of those questions, kind of like a multiplicative comparison problem. If you check it, you won't miss it. So if you're getting 10, you got to give me one extra step there to make sure you're getting that question correct. All right, so what was that? That was day 8. You got one more day of this review before Friday. It's kind of like an EOG Friday type of sheet. So maybe if you knock out day 8 and you want to go ahead and get started on day 9, so you give yourself a little bit more time to do that 10th day, that might be something that can work. So I'm hoping by the end of the day today, I've got a ton of people in that Google Classroom. I hope I got a bunch of messages from people telling me how you did. If you have questions, ask them. If you want to be on the show, let me know. Miss G, was awesome. So hit me up. I want you to be on virtual math. I just said the word It's not a word, but I just said 100 times, and it's going to bother me. But thanks for watching. Miss you all. We'll see you tomorrow.